Welcome to episode number 170 of the Beyond Social Media Show. Almost forgot the name of our show. Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We are recording live on YouTube, January 12, 2017. Plenty to talk about this week, as usual. Red Dawn Online. We interrupt this Facebook video. Psycho Pharma Bro. Saudi Girls Gone Viral, Third Life, Dan Rather's Guts, Tiny Foods, Ambassador of Weird, and we always started off with the worst story of the week. BL always does the honors. BL, what was the worst story of the week?
Well, the worst story of the week happened this afternoon, and it was basically Red Dawn is here. C-SPAN had an online broadcast of the congressional hearings interrupted by the Russian TV news feed, and it's either a mix-up or it's really Red Dawn. And what happened was it was interrupted only online today by Russia Today, which is controlled by the Russian government. And all of a sudden, there was music playing and an ad about a Russian resort. And C-SPAN says it's investigating under the assumption that maybe it was a result of some technical issue. However, this Russian network was implicated in a declassified intelligence report that accused the Russian government of meddling in the United States presidential election. Technical error? I seriously doubt it.
Yeah, I guess I would say in any normal year, that's a completely bizarre. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But it's just not surprising.
No, it's not. But it is the first time it's ever happened, and it won't be the last.
Right. We are in a state of cyber warfare. I mean, seriously, we have been in a state of cyber warfare for a while, and it's just
clearly we are
writ large now.
It's a little scary.
Well,
more than a little.
So
we'll put a link to the movie in the show notes.
Not nearly as much gravity as that story, but this is this is creepy. This is from the Next Web. Mix is the reporter. Pharma Bro, the former hedge fund manager Martin Shkreli, was bounced from Twitter after he targeted teen Vogue writer Lauren Duca in a rash of tasteless and abusive posts. So the guy who jacked up price of the life-saving HIV drug Daraprim has struck again. This guy's bizarre. He allegedly sent Duca a direct message asking her to accompany him as his +1 to the inauguration ceremony of President-elect Donald Trump. She replied, "I would rather eat my own organs," which did not deter him, not in the least. He changed his Twitter bio to read that he has a small crush on @Laura Duca. He updated his header image on his Twitter account with a collage of various photos of Duca covered with romantic lyrics from John Michael Montgomery's single 1994 I Swear song. He also tweeted he had acquired, and this is creepy as hell, the domain name marrymelauren.com. He updated his profile pic with Photoshop image of Duca and her husband, replacing his face with her husband's face. And then Duca tweeted Jack Dorsey. She'd had enough. She tweeted Jack Dorsey and like, what the WTF? And Shkreli was finally history from Twitter. So, oh my God.
That was so sick. That was really so sick. But I mean, what's very interesting here is that Teen Vogue has recently become quite political. And I've been surprised to see that, but very happy to see that, because kids are coming up and they need to know what's going on. And that's something that they read. And, you know, I'm finding my niece, who's a junior in high school, has become very political and feminist and all of those things that do my heart good. So here we have a very strange thing. You know, Facebook, in their quest for world domination, has announced that they're going to add advertising mid-roll to live broadcasts. But gee, isn't that why we stopped watching network television? And so industry sources say that Facebook's going to start testing a mid-roll ad format, and it'll give video publishers the chance to insert the ads into their clips after people have watched them for at least 20 seconds. They're changing the way that they count how what a view is. You know, it used to be 3 seconds, which was completely unfair for the simple reason that the videos play automatically in most people's feeds. So the fact that it's playing for 3 seconds is not necessarily a view. So now they say they're going to sell the ads and share the revenues with publishers, giving them 55% of all the sales, which is what YouTube offers in their video ad business. The problem is that on Facebook, there's still the issue of freebooting, which is when people take a video from YouTube and put it on Facebook, and they're not the creator of the video, and yet they're going to get the money and the views for a video they didn't create. So they haven't addressed how they're going to handle that. And I'm waiting to see how people are going to respond anyway, because from my point of view, you get to the commercial and I'm done.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's advertising that works and there's advertising that doesn't work. And interruption advertising, throughout history hasn't worked. We just didn't notice it didn't work. It only works on a small subset of the audience that's viewing it. Most everybody else is annoyed by it. But if the advertising is hyper targeted and hyper relevant, then it does tend to work. But even, with Facebook's measurement problems, I can only advise people, you need to have some type of call to action that demonstrates your return on investment for Facebook video advertising, because they've gone through that mea culpa on our measurement thing enough that I don't trust them, that I want to find, I want somebody to click through to something so I can measure it on my site rather than depending on their metrics.
Well, metrics in general are a pretty messy issue in video.
Right, but you can measure. There are things that you can measure for sure, and there are things you have to trust people on, and yeah.
So, Dave, hopefully this brings us to better news.
It does indeed. So, this one I found fascinating and heartening, actually. This is from a CNET article by Richard Nieva. More than 150 documentary filmmakers and journalists have a message for the world's major camera makers. They want encryption features built into still and video cameras. The Freedom of Press Foundation published an open letter that was signed by a bunch of filmmakers and journalists, including Laura Poitis. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but she's the director of Oscar-winning Citizen 4, and Alex Gibney, who directed the Scientology documentary Going Clear. The signatories have received death threats from border security guards, local police, intelligence agents, terrorists, and criminals who try to suppress their footage. So the types of things that journalists face, photojournalists and video journalists face all the time, people trying to seize their equipment. So that's their concern about having their content encrypted so it doesn't get into those people's hands, and would give those people's less incentive to seize their equipment and make them as journalists less vulnerable. So the foundation has sent their letter to companies including the top makers of cameras, Nikon, Sony, Canon, Olympus, and Fuji. But the encryption itself would go a long way. Encrypting cameras would go a long way towards securing the internet from hackers using unsecured video cameras for denial of service attacks. So it would help to increase the security of the internet itself as well.
And we sure better figure out how to do that sometime very soon. So in better news here, in Saudi Arabia, the women who did this and the men who helped them risked their lives by defying the conventions and the laws there. But what they did was they made of a dance video that's gone viral. And I first saw this in a Washington Post story by Adam Taylor. And this group of men and women have made a video called Hwajas. And it's a group of Saudi women in their oh God, what is it called? The veil. Skateboarding and dancing and playing basketball and driving bumper cars and all kinds of things, and having a grand old time and singing. And they're wearing brightly colored sneakers and fashionable dresses underneath the black niqab. I don't know how to say the word. Hijab. I can't say it. Anyway, the lyrics include, and these were translated by various people in social media, may all men disappear. They give us psychological illnesses. None of them are sane. None of them are sane. Each one has an illness. Every single one of them has a devil inside him. The title, Huages, roughly translates as concerns, and it also has lyrics that say, may all men sink into oblivion, and they make fun of Trump, and they say he's bringing his house of men, and they have funny pictures of him. And, you know, it emphasizes the hypocrisy of disapproving Saudi men who go by while they're doing this. I cannot imagine how they got away with filming this. I begin to wonder, did they film it in Saudi Arabia or not? But in 2014, there was another video of women dancing in a funny way that went viral in the Arab world, was seen more than 38 million times. And this one's been seen 4.7 million times so far. And what happened that was really fascinating is Amira al-Taweel, the 33-year-old ex-wife of Saudi Arabian Prince you know, this is what we miss. We miss somebody to give us cue cards that tells us how to pronounce names.
Yeah.
I feel bad every time I do it. But anyway, she's the ex-wife of Saudi Prince al-Walid bin Talal, and she put it on her Twitter account praising it. And then one of the oldest newspapers in the country, called Al-Bilad, offered its own praise for the video, saying the new generation of women is certainly different from the past. So it's a fascinating turn of events, and it's not the first time that this production company has done this and gotten away with it, but literally they've all risked their lives. It's so dangerous for them.
Well, I wonder if they had encryption on their cameras.
I seriously doubt that.
Yeah, I doubt it too. And I wonder if they were doing it in a virtual environment, whether they would have gotten in trouble rather than the actual physical world that they actually did it in. I bring it up because I'm going to tell you about a virtual reality story I promised in the past episode.
You have the best transitions,
Yeah,
Dave.
there you go. So this is from an Engadget story by Nick Summers. Linden Labs, you may have heard of them. They've created they've created a new virtual reality platform called Sansar. Linden Labs, as you mentioned, created Second Life, the first online virtual reality platform, which is still remarkably popular. They're averaging Second Life is averaging 900,000 monthly active users. But to make a decent VR experience, you need a video game engine. You need talented engineers and artists. You need to manage hosting and distribution of it. So Linden Labs is hoping to create basically the WordPress of social VR. So while Sansar will handle the technical aspects, creators can build their own unique assets on the platform. Anyone who wants to make their own world can buy these items or import their own. The idea is to build quickly build a shareable and reliable VR experience. So the Sansar platform is in creator preview right now, which is effectively a closed alpha version. They're allowing a small group of people to upload items and populate the marketplace. These people can use a variety of third-party tools, such as Maya, which is a third-party 3D modeling tool popular with the video game industry. The company's also working on drag-and-drop software for creators, but the platform has the potential to use photogrammetry, which is a technique that combines 360-degree photography with positional data that is collected usually through LiDAR, which is basically the laser version of radar. So you can have potentially not just computer-generated virtual experiences, but virtual experiences using actual 360-degree photographic imagery, which could be pretty cool. So that, you think about it, you could have virtual tours of like sensitive historical sites that are typically off limits to the public, but you could have a virtual tour with photographic imagery and have somebody giving you a tour of that place for your historical edification. Linden Labs envisions this as a low monthly fee service that they'll grant to creators for access to a virtual plot of land. So you're buying real estate, kind of the Second Life model. They can build whatever they want on top of that real estate and then choose whether to charge an entrance fee, or they can sell the assets, the virtual assets they create within the platform. So it's basically a canvas for VR experiences, but I'm looking forward to the development. It usually, I mean, technologies like this usually go from really highly technical. Takes a lot of capital to create, and then the tools become less and less expensive and more available, so the public can do it on their own. And the same was true of blogging, so let's hope the same becomes true of VR, because that'd be awfully cool.
I think it's got quite a ways to go. I'm actually going to a disruption conference at the end of the month that is devoted to AR and VR, and I hope to learn a lot more about it then. But I looked at the beta of this and it wanted to know, what equipment you had and what you were going to put up there. So they're looking for professionals right now, and there's no shortage of those.
And that's a good strategy too, because you're going to have higher quality content and stuff.
Yeah.
Think of when Blab started. Just everybody was on it, and not a lot of professionals were on it.
And Blab's gone. Bye, Blab. Yeah. So this, I don't really want, neither of us want to make this a political broadcast, but this week, Indivisible, a guide to resisting the Trump agenda, was put online. And the reason I find that interesting, and I mention it here, is because it is made by former congressional staffers, and they're talking about the best practices for making Congress listen. It's a downloadable guide for getting your elected representatives to listen and resist the Trump agenda. I personally make phone calls to my representatives pretty much on a daily basis, and people do listen, and they do seem to, they ask you for your name, and they ask you for your address and your zip code. So I think this is really worth doing and taken rather seriously. And my fear is complacency. I just, everyone I talk to says, I'm not watching the news, I can't stand it, I don't want to know. Please don't be complacent.
Yeah, well, I wasn't complacent in finding trends, and actually, this trend has been around for a while, so it's it may not be new to you, but I found it delightful. Tiny foods.
It's so funny. I love tiny foods.
This is from an Atlantic article by Jessica Leigh Hester. So tiny foods is a thing. Apparently started in Japan and has been spreading from there. And these are essentially miniature cooking shows. So all you see of the chef is their fingers creating the food on these tiny little appliances, a tiny little stove, and lit with a candle, and tiny little pots and pans and stuff. And so they make all these different recipes with tiny little ingredients. So it's like dollhouse sized meals that they're cooking up.
Even smaller. I mean, they're really tiny.
So there are several popular YouTube channels devoted to tiny foods. Pocket Resort has 100,000 subscribers. Walking with Giants has 293,000 subscribers. Taste Made has 793,000 subscribers. And Miniature Space has 1.1 million subscribers, and they sell tiny food stuff. They sell tiny food ovens. They sell tiny little spoons for like $100. It's insane.
Do they sell tiny little food processors?
Maybe. I didn't see one, but we can probably check it out.
I'd like one of those. So Dan Rather has done something that I find quite fascinating, because I was really not aware that he was online until this week, to tell you the truth. But he's on Facebook with more than 1 million followers right now, and he's just launched News and Guts, a community on Facebook, and he wants to become your digital news home. And they have, he's got a staff of people who are working with him, who are part of the company that he runs called News and Guts, which frankly I didn't know anything about, but it was immediately liked by more than 125,000 people in the first 24 hours after it was launched on Monday. And I was trying to invite people to it, and apparently Facebook has a limit of how many people you can invite in a day. It said you can't invite anybody else here today, but you could share the content. And so the question is, why Facebook? And he said, well, it's pretty obvious that this is the best media platform of the 21st century. I would disagree with that, but if you like Dan Rather and what he has to say, you may really like what he's going to offer. And, what astounded me was how absolutely quickly they're covering, it's almost in real time that they're writing the news reports. So it's definitely something to watch. They're on Twitter, of course, with their headlines, and on Facebook, and I'm assuming there will be video. And who knows, maybe it will be the biggest thing since sliced bread. Who knows?
Well, I've been fascinated with what he's been doing for a while now. But I mean, to his point, you can disagree whether it's the best media platform. It's certainly the one with the largest critical mass. So,
Yeah, well,
you
that's the
want to,
point. That's
yeah.
why he's there. But I mean, there's been a joke going around all day about fake news. Everybody's going to use that as an excuse. Your landlord says your rent is late, and you say you're fake news. No matter what, that's going to be my excuse for 2017. So, speaking of Facebook, Facebook has launched, its own journalism project yesterday. This is from a New York Times story from Fiji Simo. Fiji Simo was the director of product at Facebook who put it on their media blog. Mike Isaac is the reporter at the New York Times, and it calls for, among other things, the company to tie in with news organizations in collaboration and publishing tools and features before they're released. In other words, they're going to vet the news, which I'll believe when I see it. But they launched the program because they want to establish stronger ties between Facebook and the news industry. And they made a big hire this week. I'm trying to remember the name of the person, but they say they want to learn from journalists and about ways in which to partner better and work with educators and in ways to equip people with the knowledge they need to be informed readers. And part of this announcement has a group of e-learning courses that are worth taking a look at. There's e-learning course about instant articles, about Facebook Live, and they're like half-hour learning interactive experiences, well worth taking a look at.
Very good. Well, I've been saying for a while, I think Facebook wants to replace TV. And one of the things they want to replace is TV as the source of breaking news. And so thus the live Facebook Live video, but they also recently announced Facebook Live audio. So, portable journalists are out about covering news. This gives them a very, very easy tool to start breaking news live via audio as well. So that's what I
We'll
think.
see how that works. I mean, they have a long way to go to regain trust right now.
Yeah, I just don't see people leaving them. I mean, they've had the typical lifespan of a social channel was three years until Facebook came along.
Well, that's
And
true.
they kind of have broke the mold in terms of that. So,
So I have another one that's kind of silly. My friend Ed Miller posted this today. This guy is Portland, Oregon's ambassador of weird, and he's got fire-breathing bagpipes and a Darth Vader mask and a unicycle, and he goes around with a snow shovel and on the unicycle and the bagpipes flaming and shovels snow. He has viral videos with millions of views. He's like an internet celebrity, and he's been on CNN and BuzzFeed and the front page of Reddit. And he's somebody called him the most internety thing on the internet.
that's great.
He's also been on Jimmy Kimmel Live, America's Got Talent, The Bachelor, and more. So the video is absolutely hilarious. Guy's he's weird, all right. I wish he'd come to New York.
So are we done with are we on to shiny new stuff, or you got anything left?
I got shiny new stuff.
All right.
So this is really, very dystopian, but there's a new phone that has a built-in tricorder, just like the one that Spock and Dr. McCoy would use to analyze all sorts of objects and materials on Star Wars. This is on Star Trek. It's becoming a real thing. It's coming to smartphones, and there's actually a smartphone with a built-in molecular sensor. So I'll put a link to it.
Wow, very cool. Star Trek has been at the forefront of a lot of technology. The thing is people who watch Star Trek as kids were geeks who grew up to be coders and programmers in adult life and said, "Oh, let's make that." I have something out of science fiction, or more appropriately, out of video games. If you're a video gamer, no doubt you've played a video game that has mechs in it. Mechs are those bipedal monsters that tromp all over the ground and shoot stuff up, and you can have a lot of fun time destroying stuff. But turns out there are real life mechs. This is from a Business Insider article by Rob Ludicer. Method 2 is a bipedal robot in prototype from a Korean company called Hankook Mirai Technology. It can be piloted on board, so you can get in the thing. It's 13 feet tall, or you can pilot it remotely, so it could be a drone mech.
I want to get in it.
Yeah, I totally want to do this. I don't think that we're going to be either of us are going to be getting in it anytime soon, because the price tag is like $8.3 million. But
Would you get me one? My birthday's coming up.
right.
That's so cool. That really is. Meanwhile, the other day I was walking along in Manhattan, and what should I happen to see but a furry, a person with I guess it was a white bear's head, just walking down the street like it was an ordinary thing. You see
Okay.
things like that. I mean, it's what I said to myself. Well, okay. So I came across something called Pocket Ship, and it's an on-demand pickup and delivery service for very big items. They won't take pianos, but they'll take your couch and your chairs and anything if it's 50 to 250 pounds, and you place your order on your computer or your phone with an iOS or an Android app. And then they use technology to facilitate delivery services and computers to connect customers, and it's DOT compliant. They currently operate in the Washington, D.C. area, and they plan to come to multiple cities. And they have very reasonable prices. They won't move your whole house. They'll just move like the big pieces, the ones that are like a real problem to move. But they'll also, like if you need to move something from upstairs to downstairs that weighs 200 pounds, they'll come over and do that for you.
Yeah, that's why I left my last TV behind in my latest move. I'm not going to take that thing along and try and get that thing up the stairs. So let's wrap this up, right? Is that it?
That is it.
All right, daily numbers. This is factors for trust in thought leadership content. This is from a Hill and Knowlton survey of B2B business thought leadership consumers, 41% of whom were C-suite executives, asked what, if any, of the following are necessary for you to feel able to trust thought leadership. Select up to 2. The answers were quality or nature of research analysis, 55% cited that. Credible data, 55% cited that. Expert opinion, 33%. Secondary data validation, only 13%. Evident or declared interest by the provider, 13%. Brand plays an active role, 7%. Branding is low profile, 7%. Media and public profile of the provider is 5%. So if you're creating thought leadership content, those are some things you want to consider. Basically, do good stuff.
Well, I think that's the bottom line for all of this. You
Right.
put out good material on a steady basis, and you will definitely start to find that your reach is expanding. So that brings us to the end of episode number 170 of the Beyond Social Media show. All the links to the show, everything we covered, is going to be on beyondsocialmediashow.com/170. That's our blog where we have every one of our 170 episodes and the show notes that go with each one, and we hope you'll let us know what you think by leaving us a review. So my charming co-host is David Erickson. You'll find him on Twitter as @DErickson, and he blogs at eStrategyBlog.com and CreativePR.com/blog, both of which are weekly must-reads. You really don't want to miss an issue because Dave's a content machine, and the stuff that he publishes is really ahead of the curve. I'm BL Ochman. I'm at What's Next on Twitter, I blog at whatsnextblog.com, and my company is whatsnextonline.com. It's a digital and social video consultancy. I also blog at pawfun.com, which is a blog for animal lovers. The show is online at beyondsocialmediashow.com. We're on Twitter at BSMediaShow, and we're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes, and we're on iHeartRadio. And the links to all of those will be on the show notes. And we'll be back next week, same time, same station. And we thank you so much for watching tonight.
Thanks for watching.